As the football calendar continues to grow, injuries in the game are becoming increasingly common. The world's best medical experts are trying to combat the problem by using the latest trends and technology for treating and preventing muscle injuries in football. Hello and welcome to Football Now. On this week's episode of the show, we're at the Khalifa Stadium in Doha to attend Aspetar Hospital's International Rehabilitation Conference. It's an event attended by some of the finest minds in the sports science industry as they collaborate and share ideas on how to treat and prevent muscular injuries in football. So let's hear a little bit more about it from Aspetar Chief Medical Officer Peter Doeg.
Well, basically, Aspetar, as a sports medicine hospital, was responsible during the World Cup Q22 2 years ago to tailor to the needs for all athletes. The 32 teams came over, and with that, we had some phenomenal homogeneous data on what we saw as injuries and how we could then maybe tackle them. So with that, we saw that there were three basic main features that we could filter out of that data, which is ACL injuries in the knee, which is the ligament, hamstring injuries, and ankle injuries. So with that, we looked into the future and we said, how can we protect our football players better? Because we see that until today, these three injuries are the number 1, 2, 3. Well, how can we do better than to bring the world together, focus on one topic, which is the predominant one, and then find ways to prevent injuries and to treat them better and bring the world together.
I caught up with Fergal Kareen, a rehabilitation physiotherapist who told me just all about the latest advancements in identifying and diagnosing injuries, including why MRI scans are crucial to pinpointing the exact location of an injury and predicting how long a player will be out on the sidelines.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's probably the most important tool we have. A lot of the talks today have actually touched on how we're not able to pick out the exact injury location using clinical assessments. So by what we see on the bed alone, we can't actually determine where the injury is, and thus we can't really determine whether it's going to be in the most important area of the muscle, the intramuscular tendon. So it's really only by carrying out MRI and then interpreting that we can set along our time to return to play and identify, I suppose, what the risk of subsequent injury is. But also, that allows us to communicate with the players, the coaches, and say how long we think it's likely to take, and then explain to them if we take a certain time point, we think the risk of subsequent injury is probably X. And then it's really useful for us along the process too. We can carry out repeat MRIs that tells us where we are in the rehabilitation process and allows us to pick our exercises to maybe facilitate healing in some ways to actually improve what we see in MRI, or maybe we can recognize actually we're pushing this one a little bit too hard and we need to take a step backwards. And MRI is really useful really in all aspects of the rehabilitation process.
With the football calendar more busy than ever before, we're seeing a clear increase in muscular injuries. According to the data collated by Aspetar Hospital, hamstring injuries are the most common, accounting for 24% of all injuries. Not only that, the research shows there is a 69% chance of reoccurrence within 2 months of returning to play. And beyond that, 18% of players who suffer the injury once will do so again at some point during their careers.
For every week you can wait, you're actually reducing your risk for re-injury about 5 to 10%. Of course, there is a vulnerable period where everybody wants to get out there. The athlete wants to get there, the coach wants to get there, and the doctor might say, hey, hold on, maybe you're at risk still. And are we only supposed to go back to sport when we have zero risk? No, never. We'll always take a risk. But I think the important thing is that we are able to say how big is the risk, because then the player, the coach, and others can take a decision.
When it comes to muscle injury rehabilitation, players are eager to get back out onto the pitch as soon as they can. So is it possible to speed up muscle repair, or are there no shortcuts on the road to recovery?
The tricky part is that you shouldn't start with the rehabilitation in a too tough a way. Then you will risk of getting a re-injury. But in terms of regeneration, I don't think there will be any shortcut. There's a very delicate interplay between the muscle and the connective tissue. And if you stimulate, for instance, with growth hormone or with other stimulating factors, you will stimulate one part of it, and thereby you might disturb the balance. To give people something extra to the training might psychologically help a little bit, but in many instances it's just, it might not be harmful, but it's waste of energy and time. It is the hard job to do it yourself and do the rehabilitation.
Well, we've learned a little bit about the physical rehabilitation, but a key part in helping your body heal also comes in what you eat. We spoke to Aspetar's leading dietitian, Nelda Nader, to get the latest on how nutrition can contribute to injury recovery.
In terms of the Aspetar way, we have 6 stages of rehabilitation. The first one starts with the first stage of injury. And this is where we apply the basic nutritional strategies, which is like a high fiber diet, high antioxidant meal plan, high phytochemical intake. So this is where we pay attention to specific minerals and micronutrients. Then when they start increasing the loads, these are at the stages 2 and 3. This is where we are applying specifically the sports nutrition strategies and where we discuss protein periodization, we discuss energy availability, and we add the specific sports supplements and the ergogenic aids.
It's been a fantastic weekend in Doha as we've learned all about the latest ways medical professionals are trying to treat and prevent muscular injuries in football. That's all we've got time for here from the Khalifa International Stadium. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.